Today we're going to count down the best horror movies I had totally missed until this year. My favorite thing about being a horror fan and a movie fan in general is discovering gems that are totally new to me. So now that we're halfway through the year, let's rank the best ones so far. The only rule is, besides them being totally new to me, is they cannot have come out this year. We're not talking about new releases. These have to have come out at least a year ago. So my name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
I told you I shouldn't come. I told you.
Now, what is it? What's happened?
Do you think I'm crazy, Howard?
Dog. Good boy.
We're starting off at number 16 with Madhouse from 1981. Yes, this was originally going to be a top 15 list, but then I couldn't decide on number 15, so I threw in both. We're talking about 16 movies. Now, Madhouse is an 80s slasher that is Italian, but is really convincing as being an American movie, and it was actually included as one of the video nasties. On the whole, it's actually a really well-made movie. It's about a woman who grew up with a twin sister who was very cruel to her, and she's cut off all communication. She's very scared of this sister, but when she comes back into her life, horrible things start happening, people start dying. Now, it doesn't seem like your typical grindhouse Italian horror. It's well made, it's well shot, it looks fantastic. The cast is mainly made up of stage actors, so it's not going to be a lot of people you recognize, but it's very capable people. And the lead, played by Trish Everly, who at the time was the wife of one of the Everly brothers. Anybody else remember the Everly brothers? I'm a dork, I like the Everly brothers. She's really, really good in this movie. I was very impressed, and she's absolutely gorgeous. It really works as a slasher. There's some gruesome kills in here. The worst one involving a dog. There is a killer dog in this movie that has some savage kills itself, but when that dog gets taken out, it is insanity. So don't watch this movie if you don't want to watch a dog get killed, even if it's a mean dog. But Madhouse is actually a really good hidden gem of 80s slashers.
All my own rare editions have the same protagonist, the devil.
Number 15, The Ninth Gate from 1999. So this is a Roman Polanski directed satanic horror film, the other one that he did besides Rosemary's Baby. And while not being near as good as Rosemary's Baby, in my opinion, it's still a really good horror noir is what I would call it. It's about Johnny Depp, who is a rare book stealer who gets hired to track down the remaining copies of this certain satanic text that is very ancient and supposedly has the information needed to actually conjure the devil. Now, he doesn't believe in this kind of thing, but through the course of the movie, he's going to discover more and more how real this might be. It's got some really good, creepy, satanic cult content to it. The mystery is genuinely interesting. Johnny Depp gives a great performance, and there's a really good supporting cast all around him. And it's just fun to watch him uncover more and more the evil devil horrors that are around every corner. It's a fun, twisty, satanic mystery. Number 14, Pale Blood from 1990. So I actually blind bought this one from Vinegar Syndrome. Just picked up the Blu-ray, not really expecting that much, and I was pretty blown away how much I really enjoyed this 90s direct-to-video vampire movie. It's a vampire murder mystery in which a bunch of people in LA are getting killed. It seems like it's the work of a vampire, and a good vampire comes into town, played by George Chakiris, who you might recognize as Bernardo from West Side Story. So it's wild to see him in this vampire movie, but he's essentially our vampire private detective going through this town, trying to solve these murders. It's got a really good supporting cast with Pamela Ludwig as a woman who teams up with him, who I'm actually a big fan of from some slasher movies and such, and Wings Hauser. Wings Hauser, one of my favorite cult movie actors, and it's fun to watch Wings Hauser like really hamming it up here with George Chakiris as a very cool, stoic, debonair vampire type. It's a little bit sexy, a little bit bloody. It's a good twisty vampire mystery that I enjoyed a whole lot. Number 13, The Seventh Curse from 1986, a Hong Kong horror film, and another one that I actually blind bought from Vinegar Syndrome, and man, ended up having such a blast with. This is such a crazy, bonkers monster movie, but also as much of that, it's like an Indiana Jones-like adventure film. It's based on a character that was big in Hong Kong that was based on a lot of the same influences that Indiana Jones was based based on. So it's got a very Indiana Jones-like feel to it. Martial arts, action scenes. If you watched any Hong Kong horror films, you know they've usually got martial arts in there too. It wasn't just the action films, and this one definitely does. But the practical effects, the creatures, the skeletons that come to life, involving this cult, and one of the characters gets this blood curse that he has to get off of him. It's just a really fun blast of a movie.
Get in your car! There's something out there! It's gonna get near me! It's gonna kill us!
Number 12, Splinter from 2008. Now, despite the fact that I tend not to be the biggest fan of horror movies from the 2000s, that tends to be my least favorite decade for horror, this is one I checked out because I heard some murmurings that it had some really cool creature designs that are kind of reminiscent of John Carpenter's The Thing. And while I didn't expect it to be that good, and it's certainly not, it does deliver as a really cool creature feature. And I've talked about it on the channel quite a bit at this point. I really love the characters in this. It's about a couple who get hijacked by these criminals, and all together they have to hold up in a gas station while this splinter infection is spreading around and turning people into disgusting creatures. Really fun monster movie with great effects, great characters. The only downside is some really terrible shaky cam, but beyond that, it's a really good time. Just outside the top 10, we've got Island of the Fishmen from 1979. I have wanted to see this one for so long. It's an Italian horror film that's directed by Sergio Martino, who's the director of a lot of my favorite giallo films. And I just thought the idea of him making a Creature from the Black Lagoon type monster movie starring Barbara Bach from The Spy Who Loved Me, that just sounded kind of too good to be true. It really did deliver. The vibe of it reminds me a lot of Lucio Fulci's Zombie, which of course also takes place on a tropical island and also has Richard Johnson as the guy on the island. He's in both movies. There's really interesting mystery and backstory behind why they're actually there. And honestly, the opening scene alone is enough to get it on this list, where these people arrive on the island and it's incredibly atmospheric and spooky, and they're getting killed off one by one, decapitated, until it's revealed it's by fishmen that are on the island in Island of the Fishmen. Cracking into the top 10, we've got Mutant from 1984, also known as Night Shadows. This is another one I've talked about a lot on the channel because it was such a great discovery for me. I love a good, cozy 80s horror movie so much. And when I find another one that I had never seen before, and this one was suggested to me by you guys in the comments section, so I have you to thank for this, that's just such a wonderful thing for me. It's about a couple of brothers who are on a road trip, one of which being Wings Hauser, so shout out to him once again, who get stranded in this town and discover people there are getting infected by toxic waste and turning into mutants, vampire-like creatures, but they really function like zombies. If you go into this expecting a zombie movie, you're gonna get what you came for. It's got a wonderful, cozy atmosphere to it, and watching Wings Hauser and a beautiful school teacher that he teams up with run around this town trying to figure out what's going on and avoid getting killed by zombie-like creatures, that's a wonderful time for me. I enjoy this a lot.
As you can see here, we have these parasites.
Oh my god.
Isopods eat right through the fish's tongue.
Number 9, The Bay from 2012. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this has showed up on the last two lists I've done on the channel. I couldn't eliminate it from this list just because of that, but I do feel guilty about that, so I'll make this quick. But this is a found footage movie that takes place in a small coastal town that discovers the water in the bay, and now their water supply in general, is filled with parasites, and it is just about how much that can completely destroy a society if everyone is getting eaten alive by tiny little bugs. It feels realistic. It's done very realistically in terms of the found footage, spliced together with news clips, iPhone footage, webcam stuff. It's rough and amateurish at times, but it's just trying to be very realistic of a documentary about an outbreak like this destroying a town. It's disgusting, gross, scary. I loved it.
The most dangerous snake in the whole world.
The snake is loose.
Venom.
Number 8, Venom from 1981. This is a thriller about some criminals who try to kidnap a wealthy child, but end up being trapped in the house with the cops outside and a venomous black mamba snake that accidentally ended up there in the house. It actually makes a good bit of sense once you actually watch the movie, though it is quite a bit of coincidences all coming together at once. Yes, this is a thriller, probably a little bit more than a horror movie, but the snake aspect puts it a little more in the creature feature horror kind of angle. And this is just such a lost, forgotten gem that I am so glad I finally found. It's directed by Piers Haggard, who's actually the director of Blood on Satan's Claw, but it was originally going to be a Tobe Hooper movie, and he quit because of how miserable it was to work with Klaus Kinski and Oliver Reed. And from everything I've heard about those guys, especially Klaus Kinski, totally understand. Get the heck out of there, Tobe Hooper. But Piers Haggard pulled it off. He pulled it together, and everyone is so great in this movie. Oliver Reed as the loose cannon criminal who's flying off the handle, Klaus Kinski as the cool and collected professional, and Sterling Hayden perhaps as the true lead as the kid's grandfather. I love Sterling Hayden from the film noir days, like from The Killing, probably most particularly, and if anything, he might be at his best here. Like, he's so good. I just loved Venom, thought it was so intense, thrilling, and it's just such a phenomenal collection of actors doing great work. Loved it. Number 7, Phantoms from 1998. This was such a shocking surprise for me this year because I always assumed this late 90s horror film was another Scream ripoff, an urban legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like a lot of those movies, but that is not what this film is at all. It was just marketed like that. It's based on a Dean Koontz novel, and it is actually a totally Lovecraftian, cosmic, ancient god horror film about these two sisters who get stranded in a deserted small town and have to team up with the local sheriff, who's played by Ben Affleck. And look, I like Ben Affleck, definitely a fan of him to some degree, but he is miscast as the small town sheriff. He's not very believable.
But Affleck was the bomb in Phantom.
But whatever, he's good enough. I don't mind it. But yeah, they discover there is an ancient god that is coming back, and Peter O'Toole is the expert on him, and he has to come in and help them. And it is just really ambitious. The ideas are so interesting. Sometimes the level of ambition exceeds the grasp of the special effects and the CGI, late 90s CGI, but most of it looks really good, and I can forgive those small quibbles. I actually thought this was a really interesting, exciting, definitely a massive hidden gem for me. I'm so glad I finally found it.
Wait a minute. What did you say?
Somebody came into the house and took me, and this is the tough part. They did not appear to be human.
Number 6, Communion from 1989. Another massive surprise for me. This is an alien abduction movie starring Christopher Walken as a husband and father who goes through a very typical alien abduction type experience and ends up completely haunted and broken by it, but absolutely obsessed with discovering the answers of what happened to him and who these creatures are. The backstory to this movie is as interesting as the film itself because it is based on the memoir of the guy who supposedly went through this, and he wrote the screenplay himself. He got a friend of his to direct it. He got it independently produced, so nothing about it could be changed. So this is the direct vision of a guy who says he went through this experience, and perhaps because of that, it is so incredibly unique as an example of this genre. Christopher Walken is so good in it, and it really plays like a drama more than a horror film, just about this man trying to come to terms with this experience. But the alien stuff is so good, so scary, and so bizarre. Like, I can't believe how weird the alien sequences get here. But it's from a guy who's not really trying to make an alien abduction movie. He's supposedly trying to make a memoir. And this is a film that really gets the terror and the beauty, wonder, hopefulness that the reality of aliens could be. And balancing those two things was a beautiful thing. I thought Communion was like genuinely a beautiful movie, in addition to being a really good alien abduction horror film. Starting our top 5, The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue from 1974. This is a Spanish zombie film that came out in the wake of Night of the Living Dead and definitely brings a lot of influence from Night of the Living Dead, but just tries to make it bigger, badder, gorier, grosser, and really succeeds at all of those things. It's about some characters who come into a small town on a road trip and discover there are zombies there coming out of the grave, coming to life. The zombies are really scary here. I particularly love the sound design around them. You just hear like this just deafening guttural moaning every time they are on screen. They're scary. There's some truly grotesque flesh-eating sequences in here. And I just thought it was a really intense and creepy example of a very traditional zombie movie. Great stuff. Number 4, Beauty and the Beast from 1978. This is a Czechoslovakian version of the classic Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, but it really turns Beauty and the Beast into a gothic horror film. It's almost like what if Hammer made a Dracula-like Beauty and the Beast film, and I'm a huge fan of that particular fairy tale. It's probably my favorite of the classic fairy tales. I'm interested in watching most any version of Beauty and the Beast, and watching this creepy horror version of it where the Beast is terrifying, has a hunger for human blood, has this split personality-like aspect that is trying to draw him to kill and devour Beauty, but then part of him is also falling in love with her. All this disturbing and scary content around the Beast, around the whole world that this movie exists in, is in such stark contrast with Beauty herself, who is absolutely luminous in this film. She is like a shining angel, both in how beautiful she is, but also how optimistic and sweet she is. And there's honestly like a real romantic and sexual tension between them that I thought was very impressive, particularly due to the fact that this is the least humanoid version of the Beast I have ever seen. He looks more like a vulture than the lion or cat-like appearance that we're used to. This is a beautiful, haunting fairy tale that works as gothic horror, folk horror as well. I loved it.
Witness.
Number 3, Mute Witness from 1995. This is a brutally intense thriller about a young mute woman who's working on the film crew for a movie that's shooting in Russia and accidentally witnesses the creation of a snuff film on the set after hours. She then spends the rest of the movie just running around trying not to get killed by these guys and trying to bring them to justice. And it is such an intense cat and mouse game. That is my favorite thing about the movie, just watching it on the edge of my seat, chewing my fingernails. I don't really chew my fingernails, but you know, white knuckle thrill ride. That's what critics like to say. Desperately watching this very likable and very vulnerable character try to survive. And it's one of those movies that just really brings out your inner hound for justice, where these villains are so evil. They're so horrible. And you just cannot wait for them to get their comeuppance. And that makes the movie really, really fun to watch. It's incredibly stylistically directed. It's kind of like a Brian De Palma type feel, though not, of course, being Brian De Palma. And this is one that I actually watched on Shudder, but I loved it so much I had to pick up the Arrow video release. Awesome stuff.
Nobody has survived longer than a week.
Number 2, Smile 2 from 2024. This is, of course, the sequel to Smile that came out a few years ago, and I saw Smile in the theater, and it's not a bad movie, and I'm not here to bash it, but I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was okay. So I wasn't really interested in watching Smile 2 when it came out last year, and I finally caught up with it this year, and I was blown away by what a giant leap I thought it was in quality from the first one. It is so much more interesting, so much more unique, and Naomi Scott as the lead, who plays a pop star, and that's really interesting to watch a pop star go through the smile curse, because everybody just kind of looks at her like she's being a drugged out prima donna or something when she's actually suffering from this crazy smile curse. Naomi Scott gives one of the best performances I've seen in the horror genre in a long time. And I've actually been a fan of her for a long time, ever since I saw her in Power Rangers and then Aladdin, but she's been in a lot of not great movies. She's been great in a lot of not great movies. And it's so good to see her finally in something worthy of her talents. She's amazing here. This film is immaculately directed by Parker Finn. Every piece of it is so beautifully well made, stylistically shot, intense. There are so many sequences that are just some of the most impressive, visceral horror, disgusting, brutal violence that I've seen in a long time, while just always being a really exciting thrill ride. You know, another movie I talked about recently on the channel is Possession from 1981, which I didn't see for the first time this year. I saw many years ago, so it's not on this list. But Parker Finn got announced to be directing a remake of Possession. When I heard that, I kind of scoffed at it. I don't care about a Possession remake, but now I'm like, let this man cook. He can do it. I am so excited to see Parker Finn's Possession. That's going to be awesome.
So the loonies are outside in the real world, and here we are with the keys to the loony bin, boys. I want to come home. I am so sorry.
But my number one is Session 9 from 2001. Now, when I set out to make this list, the first thing I did was immediately put Session 9 at the top. And then I was like, okay, let me figure out the rest of this. There is just no question the best movie I've watched so far this year is Session 9, and also the scariest. This is the most genuinely terrified I have been watching a movie. Now, it's about a cleaning crew that goes into an abandoned mental hospital to clean out the asbestos, and they just get haunted by what is going on inside that asylum. Now, it is filmed in an actual real abandoned asylum, and the stories that the cast and crew tell about this filming are so interesting. They all just felt this feeling of evil in there and kind of couldn't wait to be done with it. And when you watch the movie, it is so amazingly atmospheric, and they didn't really do anything for set design. That's just how this place looked. That just gives it such a creepy feeling. The characters are very interesting. They feel very real, and the oppressive atmosphere of supernatural evil going through every frame of this movie, listening to audio recordings of therapy sessions with very disturbed individuals, hearing backstories of what went on in there. It is so unsettling, so creepy. And I just loved every second of this thing. And when it was over, I was freaked out. I could not wait to get the heck out of my basement and go upstairs. Scary, scary movie. Absolutely brilliant. I love Session 9. Before I go, I just want to give a massive shout out to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. If anyone else wants to support me and what I do here, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Matthew Bledsoe, Andy Gorham, and James Montgomery. You guys absolutely rule. So that's my list. But what are your favorite discoveries you've watched for the first time this year? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can click on this video right over here, or this list of a lot of my other best of lists that I've done here on the channel. Pretty soon I'll be posting a wrap-up ranking of the 2025 horror movies that I've watched recently, so look out for that. Thank you all so much. I will see you next time. Bye.